Alright, so let's look at the fun stuff, the bumpy stuff. So we're going to look at what are bump maps, what are normal maps, and what are displacement maps. I know that's a lot of words, but those three things actually do pretty much the same thing, but in different levels. So for example, a bump map, it's lower quality, but you can get away with using it for like things that aren't super close to the camera. Normal maps are good for like clothing wrinkles into a character, and we'll talk about how you create those and just quickly to show you what they look like. And then the displacement map that actually it actually looks like it moves or actually extrudes polygons even though you haven't extruded anything. So first things first, bump maps. So I have these three to show you an example of what they look like. So let's go ahead, open the hypershade, which I already had it open. Let's create a Lambert. Where's a Lambert? Lambert. So there it is. Let's go ahead and assign this Lambert to that first cube. Now, how do these work? So this is my bump, right? That's going to be my bump material that I'm going to call it. So these work by, let me show you here. Boom. A black and white image. Okay, so your color, if we're looking here in your color, you can go ahead and plug in like your color texture, your image. And then at the bottom here, bump mapping, you're going to add another different one, not the color one, but a black and white version of your color one. So for example, to create these, you have to go into Photoshop. Let's just say this one was like the original realistic photograph of bricks, right? And I want to use this as my floor. So you would take that image into Photoshop, you would save it out as your color texture, which you're going to plug in here, your realistic one, not this black and white one. And then again, you take that same image because it has to match with the bump map. They have to be the same one. And then you would turn that image into a black and white one. So get rid of the color. And then usually you open up your levels in Photoshop, Control L. And then you push the blacks and you push the whites. And you try to get rid of all that detail. If it has like little scratches on the rocks and things like that, you can leave those on there. But you try and get it look like this. Completely black and white. And why? Because this is actually like information. The black and white is information that Maya uses to know, to understand which part of the image to push up and which part of the image to extrude in. So the color is important. Which one is black and which one is white is important, because the white one, just think of it like this. The white one is being pushed up towards the sun. That's why it's white, because it's hitting light. Okay? And the black is being pulled in. That's why it's black, because there's no sun hitting it, right? So that's a little trick to always try to remember which one goes black and which one goes white. All right? So white goes up, black goes in. And this is how it works. Very easily, make sure you're using viewport 2.0 so you can see it. You go into the bump map and you just assign a file, which is up here. You go to file, you find that black and white image. This is just the bump map, not the color. Okay? And then now it has been assigned to it, but you don't see it because we need to turn on our textures. So let me get rid of that. There it is. This is our wall. Now you can tell the white is being pushed up and the black is being pushed in. All right. So that is how you create a very simple bump map. Now, there are limits to a bump map because bump map, it doesn't really extrude it, it just simulates it. So if you look very close to it and you start going into an angle, it starts looking flat. So right here it looks completely flat. So if this was a wall, it doesn't look like it's being extruded. And also here you have a hard edge. You still have that sharp edge on the left. So it doesn't look convincing only from a certain angle. Okay, so maybe just from the front, from here, maybe like a 45 degree, that looks okay. But you know, you start getting closer and it doesn't look convincing. It looks kind of pixelated. Right, so maybe from this distance, something like that. And then if I render this, it should look pretty decent. So here you can tell that it looks bumpy. It looks like floor. So that is how you apply a bump map. Very simple, very easy. All right. And you can come in here to click on this one, click on it again, or actually this one. And that'll take you into the bump attribute. So if you think it's too bumpy, you can lower it to, you know, anything that you want. Just don't go past to the negative, because that'll actually flip it. And if you have this bump map that's matching your color map, then if you flip it into the negative, it's not going to match. So it'll actually create the you know, the extrusion part won't match up with the color one, and it's going to look weird. So, you know, you can go ahead and mess with this. Usually like, you know, 0.4, 0.5 looks okay, or even less. So usually beginners will tend to overdo it. They'll leave it like that, like, oh yeah, I've never seen that, it looks amazing. So just make sure you don't overdo it too much. I mean, it depends what it is. All right. So that's it. That's bump maps. Now, normal maps. What do normal maps look like? Normal maps are not black and white. They are actually this color. They have their weird, like, pink, bluish color to them. Now, how do you create these? These, you do not, you could create them in Maya. You know, Maya has its way, but preferably you create them using, for example, another program like ZBrush or Mudbox. All right. Why? Because this is the trick right here. This is big in video games, and this is how we get away with making something look almost very realistic. So when you're looking at characters, let me see if I can find something. Let me just Google it over here on the side. So video game characters. Let me see if I can find actually 3D game characters, because I'm getting like Super Mario and stuff like that. So when you're looking at something like, let's say, yeah, let's go with this guy right here. When you're looking at all these little wrinkles here, sometimes they're not modeled in the character. This one, they sort of look like they're modeled in there, but other times they are faked. So for example, this one, okay, this is a good example. You see all these wrinkles here? They're very subtle. And even here on the pants, there's wrinkles here. So these are not modeled. These are actually normal maps. So what happens is you take a low-res character from Maya. So Maya, you model something, you know, very, very quick, very cheap, very low poly number. And then you bring that model into, like, for example, ZBrush or, you know, Mudbox. And then there you can subdivide it into like 1,000,000 polygons so that you can get very fine detail. And I'm talking like like wrinkles in the forehead, wrinkles under the eyes. You can see the skin pores, you know, you can see like pimples. You can do almost anything, scars, cuts. And then once you have that very high detail from ZBrush or whatever program, then you export normal maps. So the normal maps are going to be as high detail as you modeled it in ZBrush. So for example, all these detail, I mean, can you imagine trying to model all these wrinkles in Maya by moving all the vertices? I mean, that would be crazy. So we don't do that in Maya. We do this in a program like ZBrush or Mudbox. And then from there, you export this. It'll generate it for you, normal map. Okay? And that allows you to capture all that information, all that bumpiness information into this material. And then all you do, you save it as a JPEG or a TIFF or a Targa or whatever you want. And then when you bring it into your low res model, it's kind of like a bump map, but it's just a higher detail version of it. You can see all that pores. And what happens is you bring it in, like I said, I don't know if I said that. You bring it into your low poly version of your character, and then it makes your low poly version model look high res. I know that's a lot of explaining, but you guys need to understand how important this is, because we use this a lot. Almost in every video game I worked at, all the studios, the guy who's modeling and texturing the character will make normal maps, and you need to understand what they are. Alright? So, to add a normal map, you pretty much add it the same way under a bump map, but it's going to be slightly different in the settings. So you go in here and you're going to change this bump map into tangent space normals. And then you go into file and you go ahead and add that bluish looking one, which I call normal map. You open it up and there it is. So actually I applied it to both of these. So don't worry about these. Let me go ahead and make a new material. Alright, so just this one. And now you can see that this actually looks like it's popping up, and you can see all the wrinkles on here. Now again, you still have to apply a color to this. So let's say this was going to be like pants or something. These are like jeans, right? And I want to make them blue. You can still come in here and, you know, make that blue. And this actually reflects, like, the shadow and the lighting still interacts with it. So you can see as I'm moving this how the light bounces off of it. So compare this detail. I mean, this looks like it was all modeled here. This is kind of like, looks like it's popping out, right? Compared to this, it's kind of pixelated, you know, it's kind of chunky, but this one gives you all the little details on it. You could see here, like, it looks like fabric. I mean, that's how much detail it uses, because this is calculating off of the red, green, blue channel, so RGB, right? So if I come in here and I render this, again, it's going to give you the same detail. So I need to bump up the quality on my HDRI lighting. That's what I'm using. That's why it looks a little pixelated. But you know, once you do that, if, let's say these were pants, you see all your creases on there and all your wrinkles on the pants, right? So that's how they differ. And you can also apply this to skin. So if this was skin, you know, that, like I said, that's how you get all the, like, the scar or a scab or things like that that you don't necessarily want to model out of polygons in Maya. Alright, so that's the difference. Next up is displacement map. Actually, for the displacement map, I want to show you on this bigger polygon, because that one is just really, really, really awesome. And I kind of like it because it's different than bump maps in the fact that it actually extrudes. It doesn't extrude it in your viewport, it extrudes polygons in the render. So it fakes it as much as it can. So you can try and get away with it with as much as you can, but you know, still there's limits. So in order to do, let me go ahead and minimize my Google here. Displacement maps are actually black and white images again. So these are a lot easier to create. If you can make a bump map, you can make a displacement map. The only thing that's a little bit tricky are normal maps. All right. So again, all these three maps have to do with the roughness or the bumpiness of a material. Okay, so let's say I have this wood material here and I want to apply it to this floor here, or actually it's going to be like a wooden fence or something. So to do that, you open up your hypershade, you go into look for displacement. So just type in DIS right here and you'll see here displacement. So go ahead and drag that on here. And let's go ahead and create a material. So I'm going to go into Maya Lambert. So there I have my material and I have my displacement. So this one does not go under the bump map. That does not go there. It goes under its own thing, displacement shader. Right, so these are shaders here. So in order to make this work, you go here where it says vector displacement. This is actually where your image goes. I know you might be thinking, oh, it goes under displacement because that's what this shader is. Unfortunately, you know, it's kind of tricky the way Maya works, but it doesn't go there. It goes under vector displacement. So you go in here, you go to file, and you just simply find that file. So this one is a black and white image. I called it displacement, and it's going to be this wood pattern here. So I'm going to go ahead and click open. Rearrange these by clicking this, frame them, and there it is. And now all I have to do now is simply middle mouse, click and drag my displacement shader onto my material. And when I release, I'm going to get this menu. Very easily, it says down here, displacement map. Now, don't confuse it. It's not a bump map. It's a displacement map. It's a little bit different. So you click there, and that's it. It's actually plugged in. I know you don't see a little arrow like you see here, but if I just say graph network, you can see my Lambert is down here, and now you see that little connection here for the displacement. Then all I have to do is assign it. So I want to assign it to this object here. So right click on the material, not the displacement or the shader, and say assign material to selection. Then that's going to assign it here. Now let's go ahead and show you what's going to happen if I do a render of this. It might not show up, and I'll show you why. Or if it does, then woohoo, it kind of does. Is that working? Yeah, so we're getting something, but it looks pretty huge. It's not matching up to this, and that's because the size of this, it's pretty big. So in order to change that, you go into your displacement, and then right here where it says displacement and scale, go ahead and shrink this to like 0.001 on both of them. That says 1, so 0.001. Make it really, really small. And then let's go ahead and re-render this. So usually by default it makes it like very big so you can't see anything. So let's see what this looks like. And this one looks, yeah, I think we did it here. So this one works out nicely. This one actually will extrude the corner. So as you're looking at this edge, you saw how the bump map was a sharp edge. This one will actually make it bumpy. So if you look very close, there's a little bump right there. And I know this is kind of hard to see because, you know, it's sort of like a wood texture. But if I zoomed in here, I mean, you would be able to see all the details. So let me go ahead and switch that displacement file to the same one that I'm using here. So you can really see it. So I'm going to get rid of this wood one, and I'm going to replace it with the same one I chose for the bump map. I mean, it doesn't matter what I call it. The only thing that matters is that it's black and white. Go ahead and open this, and then watch this. If I re-render this, it should update now with that new material. But now we're going to get a lot more extrusion out of this. So I'm going to need to change the settings here. So let me go ahead and pause it. Okay, so if you want to increase the depth, you want to increase both of these by a little bit. So that's too little and it's not noticeable, but I want to really exaggerate it. So instead of going 0.001, I'm going to go 0.01. So remove one of the zeros here. And then go ahead and re-render this. And now you're going to see the magic of displacement maps. So this one actually looks like it's being extruded, and you're going to get bumpy edges. It's not going to be a sharp edge. So this one is like really, really amazing for like stones like this on the floor. And it's just, it's pretty darn good for me. I mean, if you look here, you see that how it's bumping up. Here you see all these little jagged edges. So that's actually like distorting the polygon. And if we look here, it's a flat image. But if you look here in your render, it actually looks like it's being extruded. And that's because it actually is, right? So these are the three different types of surfaces that we can create from what was it, the bump map, normal map, and displacement map. So displacement map is the only one that takes just a little bit of setup here with this displacement node. All right, and that's pretty much it with those three. Now the last thing I want to show you are like little tips and tricks on how to render things. So let's go ahead and get rid of this and just apply a new material here. So here's a little trick, because we know that Maya mostly works off of, well, pretty much everything is black and white images. The only one that doesn't work like that is the normal maps. Normal maps have that, remember, like I said, that weird blue and pinkish color to it, which was this map here. This weird one here. So for everything else, even transparency, this little transparency node here, if we made a transparent map, or actually for transparency we call it an alpha channel. So again, it's a little bit different. You can call it alpha channel, you can call it a transparency map. You know, it's all the same. It just depends on the artist. But check this out. If we make something black and white, the thing that is black will not be visible. Hopefully I don't get this one reversed. The one that is white will be opaque, which means you will see it. Let me show you an example here. So I can actually, instead of, you could go onto the internet or you could create your own image, save it as a JPEG. But the thing with this is we can actually select one of these, like the checker you see is black and white already. So check that out. It automatically makes it transparent. So here I have the color set to whatever color I want. But because the color of the checkers is black and white, it'll actually use this data. So it's like using that black and white image to tell Maya what is transparent and what is not. So here, if I change the color of it, so if I change this to white, it makes it transparent. If I make the other one black, it shows the other one. Anywhere in between, it'll blend between them. So I can go ahead and bring the other one up. You can even animate this by right-clicking Set Key. So if you wanted something to appear and disappear, you could do it that way. So this is pretty neat. You still have your color. If you wanted to add a color, if you want to make a window with like things on it, or you want to write something on it, you could do it this way, right? That's one way. You could, if I break this, just like we saw the normal maps, again, it doesn't have to be a JPEG. It can be one of these materials over here. So for example, let's say noise. So if I add noise, this actually works as a bump map because the noise is black and white. So if I click here, this noise is actually black and white with some gray. So I can come in here and mess around with the noise, and I get different effects on the bump map, right? So this is like scale. It's pretty neat. The depth of it. I'm gonna shift some of this off. Frequency. Implode. That's pretty neat, like a little volcano type. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Right? And then you can render this and it should still, you would see that as a bump map. Because the only thing that matters for Maya is that the input that you're giving it is black and white. So there, that looks like anything. So let's say you're making a cave. So all of this would look like that. So the beauty about using the materials that Maya gives you. So when I came in here and let me go ahead and break this. When you come in here and you select one of these, you don't have to unwrap your UVs. You don't have to unfold your UVs because these work like as soon as you apply them, they look good. And most of them, they are seamless. So like all of these, a fractal, the grid, the mountain, the noise, what else? The water, the Brownian, I don't know how you pronounce the cloud. All of these, most all of them are seamless. So that's the beauty about adding your own material here from the Maya swatches, because you know that gives it that nice flow, and you can create anything from it. So that's that one. The last one I'm going to show you, or two more shaders that I'm going to show you, is a flat color. So let's say you don't want any shadows or anything like that. You can come in here and do a surface shader. That's going to make it just flat, straight out one color. So you can see here under output color, that's the color that it's going to turn it into. So you want it completely white, like if it was made out of the program Flash, you grab the bucket and you just fill it in with whatever color you want. So that's just going to be a very flat color. This can give you like a cartoony look to it. So again, you know, there's nothing special about it. There's no shadows. There's nothing to it. It's just a flat color. So that's how you get flat colors on here. And the last thing I want to show you is how usually when I create my play blast, I like to have that little shadow. Most of you have seen it on my Facebook. Let me see if I have my Facebook here. For example, you see like this guy right here. Let me do HD. So you can see when he's walking, this kind of looks transparent, but you're still seeing a little shadow. Some of you were asking me how I do that. And this is simply a play blast using viewport 2.0 with the material on the ground. And I'm going to go ahead and show you this really quickly. And then we're going to call it quits because you should have enough info on how to make your own materials. So for example, let's say I have a cube or my character, okay? This is my character right here. And he's just right above the ground. And I'm going to go ahead and make this just a flat Lambert. So here's the trick. Go to your materials. Go ahead and delete everything I'm not using. Down here where it says use background, go ahead and add this one. That's the one we're going to use. And then we're going to assign it to the ground. So go ahead, drag it over. And then so now actually you're not seeing the ground. If I select this background, that's because I have this IBL. So if I delete that, you're like, where's the ground? It's actually still there. It's just invisible. It's not transparent. It's just, this shader only casts or receives, I should say. It only receives shadows. So if I come in here and make this, remove this specular, we don't need specularity. We don't need reflection stuff. But we want to capture the shadow. So the shadow is all the way on to 1. All right. And what this allows you to do is render only the shadows. So you can see the ground is still there, but it's not being rendered. So now if I come up here and I turn on this ambient occlusion in the viewport, I get that little shadow. So that's how I create my viewport. So as I'm animating this, you see that little shadow there? That's what that use background material does. So it allows you to just receive shadows onto that ground. So that plane is still there. So if I render this, actually it's not going to render the ground. So you see we have the polygon here, but if I go ahead and view what's being rendered, only the sphere is being rendered. Now if I had a light in here, it'll cast a shadow, and only the shadow and the ball would be rendered, right? So if I quickly come in here, add one light, directional light. Let me show the light. And I have this pointing down, right? So if I turn on the shadows, the light and the shadow, and I render this, I should get, there you go. Under color you won't see it because the shadow is black and the background of this is black. But if I turn on the alpha channel to show me everything that is being rendered, you see the sphere and a little bit of the shadow down here. Right? So that is how I create that little effect there. And it's also very useful when you want to render without the ground, just the shadow and the character. Alright, and that's pretty much it. We covered everything. So from here on you can mess around with all the other materials. They're all pretty much the same. You can assign them under the color swatch. You can assign them under bump map if they're black and white, the transparency map if they're black and white. It's just that fun. Experiment with them, and that's how you're gonna learn. That's sort of how I learned to use them. So just experiment, and show me what you guys create on my Facebook. So go to facebook.com/animation methods and post pictures. Ask me questions if you have issues you don't understand, bump maps, normal maps, or displacement maps. Send me a question. I'll be glad to answer them. So subscribe if you liked this video and share it, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.